Okay, so good morning and welcome. My name is Teresa Doherty. I am the coordinator for Business and Information Technology programs with Virginia Beach City Public Schools, and it is my pleasure to take you through the Computer Information Systems curriculum training and updates for the 2020-2021 school year. This recording is taking place in August of 2020, so the focus for our training and updates this year will really be on the pacing guide and the virtual learning start. So that's really kind of where we're going to focus our attention. So what I'd like to do is share my screen with you and see here if we can get over to our Schoology group so I can share that with you. Okay, so what you should be looking at is the Schoology group for computer information systems. And for those of you who maybe are not familiar with this, or maybe this is the first time that you are teaching this, I'll just go over to the update really quickly, which is just kind of like a landing page. I don't put a ton on here, but just so that you kind of have a general idea of what the course is if you've never taught it before. It's technically the first year of a 2-year course that is intended to build Microsoft software programs, the understanding and the ability to use those. There are some internet business applications. There's some web information in there as well. But essentially we use the Microsoft Imagine Academy because that is the grouping of certifications that we are working toward in the Computer Information Systems course, are those Microsoft Office Specialist certifications. So anyway, if you're ever interested in learning a little bit more about that, this will give you a brief overview. The information on the side will also do the same. You are going to spend most of your time in the resources tab here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to head back over there. The training and updates folder here, I just want to point out to you the orange folder. This is where this recording will be housed when it's completed. And then any updates or additional recorded trainings will also be uploaded into that folder for as long as this course exists. And essentially what that is a link to the YouTube channel that houses all of the business and information technology trainings that have been recorded. So that'll be in there, and like I said, it'll give you the information that we have covered today. You can receive points in Frontline. Now this is August of 2020, so if you're looking at this in 2021, the points are over. But you can look at this for points either right now while it's being recorded, because I know I do have some folks here live, or if you're doing this on demand, you can also receive points in Frontline. You just got to go in and sign up. I do have everything in there. If for whatever reason you can't find it, just reach out to me and I'll add you myself, and we can take care of it as well. Additionally, if you are looking at this on demand, I do want to let you know that on Tuesday, September 1st, we'll be holding a live session, and that is in 2020. We'll be holding a live session that is not a duplicate of this recording. Really, it's intended to be a brief FAQ session to provide some support. So I would encourage you to go through this recording, and if you've got questions or you'd like some follow-up, or maybe after you have watched this live, you go and investigate some things and you've got questions, go ahead and hop on to that live session on Tuesday, September 1st, and we can probably get you some answers. So anyway, just wanted to kind of point that out. This is where we're going to be spending most of our time today, is in this green folder, because that is where you're going to spend most of your time getting started for the school year. I do want to point a couple of things out because this is a first year course, so I may have teachers who are not familiar with this, or this is the first time that they're teaching. So I do want to take just a moment to point some of these other things, these other folders out. So one of the things that you'll see in every course across the board for Virginia Beach is this Front Matter guide. And the only thing that really changes from one guide to another is nominal information that is about this specific course. For the most part, the framework for this guide is exactly the same, no matter what course it is that you're looking at. And mostly it is just kind of gives you some of the strategic objectives for our school division, some of the framework. There are live links in here. So I would encourage you, you know, if you've got time to go through 20 pages worth of information, you know, just kind of take a peek. There is some good stuff. How do you write a rubric for a TC classroom, stuff like that. So definitely there's some things in here that are useful, are helpful. And just know that if you've read it in a different class, it's not different for this course. It's the only things that are different are the links out to the Verso state competencies, and then there's a screenshot of what like this, of what a unit plan might look like in our in this course. So that's really the only thing that's different. Everything else is pretty much the same. So I wanted to point that out. And you'll see it says 1718. That's because that's when we shifted over to Schoology, and that is when the front matter became something that was relevant and that was posted inside each of our courses. So most of the time in a traditional school year, you would spend all of your time just in this red resources folder, which has everything that you need for your unit plans, your pacing, all of that fun stuff that you would usually use from unit to unit. And it is still in here and it is still relevant. It's not that you're not covering it. It's just that I have some additional information that will hopefully help better support a virtual start to our school year. And also there, of course, have been some changes to the pacing, which we'll talk about as well. So a couple of things briefly I want to point out. Typically the competency logs that are required for these courses for your students could be found in here. And you'll notice I always have a link in here that goes out to our VDOE website that has all the state competencies. I do use a link to ensure that everything that you're seeing is the most up-to-date version, because those things do occasionally get updated. However, in the spring of 2020, our VDOE website crashed and it is not yet back up. It is August of 2020 right now. They are working to rebuild it as quickly as possible. And in the meantime, they have given us some alternate to use as our competencies that are available. So I'm not sure if you click on this, if it's still going to take you to a broken link or if it will take you to an actual competency record, but I just wanted to let you know I do have that available for you, and we'll talk about it when we get to the green folder. Same thing with the workplace readiness skills. There have been some changes in the 2020-2021 school year that came from state. So I did incorporate that into what we'll talk about in the green folder. So I'm going to leave this alone for now. Something I do want to mention, because again, if you are new to teaching business education, this might be something that you're not familiar with. FBLA is the designated student organization for business and information technology programs, and it stands for Future Business Leaders of America. I do like to make the distinction between our student organizations and other clubs that you might see at your school. Clubs are typically considered extracurricular. So these are things that students are doing that are above and beyond or different from what's happening in the classroom. Student organizations like FBLA are considered co-curricular, meaning what you're doing inside your classroom aligns directly with the student organization. So the different challenges that the students might be attempting, the professional development or events that they're attending, all of that aligns with curriculum and competencies that you're already teaching in your classroom. Because of that, it's considered a chapter, not a club, and it should be an advisor for each school. So each school should have a chapter, and each chapter should have an advisor that's a business teacher. You can't have more than one advisor, business teacher in there, by the way. But this is something that that I would really encourage you to have your students join and it shouldn't be something that is an added burden for you. And this is something that we're working on in FBLA, and that'll be a different conversation for a different time. But just know that the idea really is that you're taking what the students are already learning and you're just pulling in the FBLA component and saying, okay, you're already doing this. Here's how this fits in. And it begins a practice of lifelong learning that we as educators do, and that anyone in any profession, in any industry should be doing if they are passionate about their job and if they want to be good at the work that they do. So that continuing professional development, the idea that you are networking and honing those soft skills. And also, in addition to that, you're working on some of that that content knowledge is all wrapped up in this idea of FBLA. So we have lots of folks within the division that I know would be happy to get you started. If you are not sure who the advisor is for your chapter at your location, you can always ask your AP. There are stipends that are tied to this. And if perhaps you are replacing someone that is a stipend, you can designate yourself as the advisor and for your chapter and get all of that started, and also would be eligible for that stipend. So if you've got questions about that, please reach out. I'm happy to help you with that. I can connect you with some folks here within our division and also within our regional and our state division as well, just to kind of get you started. So anyway, you can take a look in here. That's a great way to familiarize yourself with it, and then reach out to me for any questions. The last thing I did want to point out down here is I have in each of my course groups a strategies folder, and typically there's kind of a mix oftentimes of content strategies and pedagogy strategies. And I think in here we have predominantly pedagogy strategies, and these are not intended to be a read through start to finish. It's really intended just to be a reference for you. So if you are looking for some help, let's say with essential questions, you're not really sure what those are supposed to look like or how you would write a good one, this is just a place to get started. So rather than having to go out to the internet and pour through things and hope that you're getting something that is quality, all of these things have been vetted, and I put them in here because I believe that they are of value to you and they're not going to be a waste of your time. I truly believe that they're things that will help. I do try to go through and check those links every so often to make sure that they are still up to date and that the information that's being provided in here is still relevant. So some of it, even when it's a few years old, is still good stuff, you know, kind of like the essential questions. So, and it's a mix, by the way, also of things that I've found on the internet, stuff that might be really great reading, or things that, that I think are just going to kind of build you up as a teacher. In addition, there are a couple of things in here that are linked to our internal website, and those would be things like the stockpiles for social emotional learning or culturally responsive practices. And so you can get to these if you're at school, you can just click on them. But if you're at home or anywhere off of a school site, you just need to make sure that you're logged in as with your school Google account versus your personal Google account, and it ought to let you in so that you can take a look at that. So anyway, that's a place for you. If you're looking for some strategies, you need something, this is a place for you to go. Okay, and the remainder of our time is going to be spent right here in the screen folder. Before we get started, there are a couple of things that I want to make sure that I mention. One is ClassLinks and the shift from Clever to ClassLinks. If you've been with Virginia Beach at all, you know that we in the past have used a single sign-on platform known as Clever that housed a whole bunch of web portals and software subscriptions and all kinds of stuff that was used not just for our business courses, but really for courses across the division. And it was intended to make teachers and students' lives a little bit easier by simplifying the process of getting you started using this resource. And so it would automatically recognize you as an educator. It would whitelist the things that you needed for access for different websites. It would create sections of courses because it recognized what your which students were in what classes and who were tied to you during which term. So all of that. And this past summer, summer of 2020, they have shifted from Clever to ClassLinks. And ClassLinks does the exact same thing, and it's supposed to have a few extra bells and whistles as well. So that training will be coming from your site. So that purchase wasn't made by TCE, that was a purchase made by the division. So the training will take place from the division. That's where that's going to come from. So you're going to see it from your site. I would say if you talk to your ITS, they probably would have some more information for you about that. So definitely worth taking a look into that. One of the things that I have requested is that everything that we had on Clever for our business courses be transferred over to ClassLinks. So if it was there in Clever, it should also show up in ClassLinks. And then any new resources that we purchased this year, I've also asked for those to be put up on ClassLinks as well. And that way, the hope is that that's going to make your life a little bit easier. And once we all figure out how to use it and work out all the bugs, because we know technology loves to be like that, especially at the start of the school year, then we should be good to go. The second thing that I wanted to mention to you, especially because this impacts CIS and ACIS courses for business more than most of the other courses, is the idea of virtualization. So one of the things that we are rolling out is a virtual desktop for students and teachers to be able to access anywhere from any kind of device. So whether they're logging on using a Chromebook or a Windows device or a MacBook, whatever, when they log in, they'll be able to access a Windows desktop with all of the software that they need for the course that they're taking. And that is not limited to the number of computers that you have sitting in your lab. We're doing it for the entirety of TCE. So the number of images will expand and contract based on the need at a given time. So we will have training on that once we have everything rolled out. We're working out some of those final kinks and running some stuff to make sure it can handle the load of students and teachers who will be on it any given time. Once we have that, our goal is to be able to roll that out to you, the teacher, at the beginning of the school year, and to have that ready to roll out to the students shortly thereafter. So just know that that too will sit on ClassLinks. So that virtualization, basically the students will be able to go to their ClassLinks site and click on virtualization, and it will allow them to log in just like they were, as if they were sitting in the lab. So regardless of what they have, what device they're logging in on, it should show up as a Windows desktop, which is going to be great for things like our Microsoft Office suite, which doesn't run on a Chromebook, or Geometrics, which needs to pull from the Office suite in order to run some of those practice projects and things. So I think that this is going to be really helpful and exciting. I think it was time well spent between us and DOT this summer, and I think that this is going to make the CIS and the ACIS classes a lot easier to teach, regardless of whether we're face to face. So, all right, let's dig in here. So one of the big changes that we have in the 2020-2021 school year is the shift in pacing. They have moved us to a 4x4, which means that you're going to be double blocked in teaching things a little bit quicker than you would. So computer information systems is typically a year-long class, but in a 4x4 environment, you're going to finish the computer information systems course in a semester. So what we've done is we've started with the first 9 weeks, pacing for the first 9 weeks, and I have every idea that we're going to have to go back and modify this because even looking at some of the things that we have here, I just think it's probably going to take a little bit longer, and I think we're going to have probably some technology issues on the front end that just need to be ironed out, and that's just the nature of the beast. So you know, like I said, this is what we've got to start. I think that we as you know, those who are teaching this will probably want to come together virtually, at least, to talk a little bit about how this is working out for your kids and for you, and then kind of revamp it as we move into that second 9-week section, which would really be the second part of the semester. So at any rate, this is what we've put together for the pacing guide. It goes by week. The topics are really the unit that you would be in, and they do align with the units that show up under your resources, under that red resources folder. This third column here are the resources that you would use in order to teach that unit. So some of it is, I'm sure, already familiar to you, and some of it might be new. We're going to talk about both of those. The competencies, this is going to be a little bit funky, and I'll tell you why. VDOE made a shift with all of their competencies this year, where they took the workplace readiness skills, those first 38, and they shifted them out. We'll talk more about that in just a minute, but just know that these competencies do still tie to the competencies that are listed in the units that are under your resources. You are still teaching those competencies, but the numbers may have changed this year. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute when we get to that part, but just know that if you're looking at these competencies and then you're clicking on the link to go out to what VDOE says the competencies are, these may not match up. So I've been going through each of our courses to figure out which ones shifted to a 001 versus a 39, and make those adjustments where I need to. So talk more about that in just a minute. Just wanted to kind of point that out since I got the competencies up there. But essentially, this is what we would try to cover in the first 9 weeks on a 4x4 schedule. So you'll notice we kind of wrapped it up with PowerPoint. All right, hop out of here real quick. All right, here's all the stuff I was just harping on, the course competencies and the workplace readiness. So remember I told you in spring of 2020, VDOE site crashed, and in the interim, this is what they provided. So this is not a permanent solution, this is just a temporary solution, but what they've done is provide a PDF of the course competencies for each of the classes that we have. The downside, of course, to having a PDF is that there's not much in here that's interactive. So it used to be that you could go to the VDOE site and you could click on a competency, and you would be able to find out a little bit more about it, maybe get a better explanation of something that was unclear. There could be suggestions about projects or lessons or websites that would be helpful. It tied everything to FBLA for you. There are a lot of benefits to having that there. Of course, with the PDF, there's nothing to click on. It just kind of shows you what the competency is. So this is what we have. Excuse me. If you click on it, this is where it's going to take you. So I wanted to at least show that to you. And as soon as they have a working website, we'll shift this out. We'll delete this and add it back in. One of the things I wanted you to notice, though, if I go back, hopefully I'm not making anybody dizzy, is that they shifted all of the workplace readiness skills and aspects of industry. All of that has been moved out of the courses. So and this is what I was talking about with the task numbers. So you'll notice that the first competency for computer information systems now starts with 39, and it is a content competency. Some of them left them as those numbers. Some of them renumbered everything to 001, which is why we're struggling a little bit with the competency numbering, and we need to go back because some of them changed, some of them did not. So, and there is still an expectation that you are teaching workplace readiness skills, but they took it out of the each of the courses because, of course, it was the same regardless of whether you were in tech ed or FACS or whatever, because it was never intended to be taught as a standalone couple of units where you teach about work ethic and then you never talk about it again for the remainder of the course. So what they've done is removed it and kind of made it its own entity, and that'll be something that you just kind of incorporate as you move through the class as it's appropriate. And I can show you what they've done with that as well. It's another PDF, so I'm sure you'll be excited to see that. Down here. Again, this is a temporary fix until they have everything. I'll be interested to see how all of this works when they do finally have the website up and working. But this is what they've done with the workplace readiness skills. So they're all here in the PDF. This does have some links that you can go to, so for instructional resources. So I do appreciate that. You'll have to check them out and let me know what you think about some of that. So anyway, they're all in here. And you're just going to kind of incorporate them as you see fit, and that way you can come back to concepts as they rise, as they come up as throughout your school year. Yeah. So in addition to that, there are some resources on CTEX, which is a website that's been around for a while, and I wanted to use this one as kind of a catch-all for teaching the workplace readiness. So on the CTEX website is some information. There are some lessons and videos and learning modules and stuff like that that are on there. Additionally, however, there are also links out to other states' workplace readiness skills that they're doing, that they've developed, resources that they've developed for their students. And those are things that have been vetted by CTEX, by the state, and deemed as something that is valuable, beneficial for you to be using. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And I'll give you a chance to click on that whenever you have some time and look around. I would definitely say that this is going to be better than reinventing the wheel though. So rather than you trying to go out and create more stuff, I would say go in here, find the things that work, figure out how you want to integrate that into your courses, and do it like that. I think that's probably going to make your life easier. So the next group down here, and you'll notice all of these are red. These are all resources for that have kind of been highlighted. They're not the only resources you can use, but they're resources that have been highlighted because they're going to be most beneficial. A lot of it, to be honest, with CIS and ACIS is the same as what you were already using, because we used the Imagine Academy and we were using Microsoft and Geometrics anyway. So a lot of that didn't really change for us. The thing that has changed for us is which version of Microsoft certifications we are focused on. So this year, we made the shift from Microsoft 2016 in the 2019-2020 school year to Office 365. So what you will notice, especially if you get back into the classroom, you're going to see that that's what you have on your in your labs is Office 365. That's what's been pushed into your labs, onto your desktops, and that's what you'll be using on the virtual desktops as well. So what the objectives that you guys are working toward for the exams would be the 2019. And for those of you who had a chance to attend any of the virtual stuff over the summer or participate in the Test Fest that VDOE offered, you'll notice that Office 2019 and Office 365 are really the same. It's just that one is static and one is not. So when your students are working toward exam objectives, it'll show up as 2019, but it's the same thing. They're just giving them a goal to work towards. So anyway, that's what I've put in here are your exam objectives. So in the first year, students should be working toward these 3 certifications. They should be working towards their Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And the goal would be to have them continue on to the Advanced Computer Information Systems course the following year and work toward a full MOS master, essentially, with using the expert Excel and the expert Word and so on. So anyway, I put the exam objectives down here for the 2019. I know that says 2020, it's just the year that I put on there, but this is all stuff that you could find if you wanted to just go to Certiport, because all of it comes under Certiport, and you could probably poke around in there and get more information. But I just thought it would be helpful for you to just have it at your fingertips. So you'll notice this is Word 2019, and this is what they all look like. I just wanted to open this one to show you what the objective domains look like so that you kind of have an idea of what to expect. So anyway, there's that. I'm going to close that out and head back in here. The platform that we use for practice projects and practice exams for Microsoft is Gmetrix. And the nice part is if you've taught any of the other business classes that use this, like the accounting class or the IT fundamentals class, they all have certifications that come through Certiport, and Certiport uses the same couple of platforms for pretty much everything. So the nice part is if you've used that for other things and you're already familiar with Gmetrix and you're already familiar with Consulate and those kind of platforms for testing and for practice. So this is going to get you started with Gmetrix if you don't have an account already. If you've never gone to Gmetrix before, you have no idea what it is, this is a place to start. I will tell those of you who are new to the business department and are maybe new to a school, you've been transferred to a different school, or you are brand new to the division, I'm going to need to create a Gmetrix account for you. So, and if you, like I said, are shifting from one school to another, we may need to move you or put in a request to move you from one school to another so you have access to the resources that were purchased for that site, because that does differ from place to place sometimes with some of that. So just know that once you have that Gmetrix account, you have administrative rights to go in and do whatever you need to do. So once you have it, you're good to go. But if you're not sure how all of this works and you don't know how it works with Microsoft in particular, I put everything in here for you so you can learn about what practice tests are in there. You can learn about the projects, figure out how all of this is supposed to work with Microsoft. Microsoft is one of the programs that Gmetrix has to pull from the software that's on that computer. This is another reason why the virtualization was so important, because it doesn't work on a Chromebook. There's nothing to pull. It's a Windows, it's a Windows software. So that's something to consider. Okay, the next thing that you may not be familiar with if you are new is the Microsoft Imagine Academy. If you haven't been using the Imagine Academy, if you haven't gone in there to poke around in some of the resources, or maybe you just haven't been in there in a while, I would absolutely encourage you to go in and take a look. There's a lot of really great information. They do keep it relatively updated. I will say I was in there and there are some links that, that they need to update, but for the most part, they do a really good job of creating good content that's going to help you and help your students. It's why we don't purchase textbooks for computer information systems anymore, because the Moac Wiley books are in there. So anyway, this just kind of gets you started. It is going to ask you, if you have not ever been in here, it is going to ask you for some membership IDs and some passcodes. I do have those. We just don't post them up here. So if you need that for your school location, just let me know, and I can email that to you directly. That's not a big deal. Okay. This is something that's new for you. And I will say that I just got the subscription information yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to go swap it out in all of the classes. So you can still use the test drive information that I put up here. And just know that over the next couple of days, I'm going to be swapping this out and putting our real subscription information in. So I was really excited to see that. This is a new resource that we purchased this year. It was a trade-off for a subscription that we had with EduTyping that had expired in June of 2020. So if you have been around business, you know that BE Publishing is a they've been around for a while, and they've got a lot of different resources, everything from posters to textbooks to videos to used to have CDs of stuff. So anyway, they also used to have a companion site. And as they have updated things this year, August of 2020, they launched an e-readiness website. And the cool part is, under a single subscription, we have access to every single title that BE Publishing offers. We can put in as many instructors as we want, as many students as we want. We can download as much stuff as we want, and all under a single subscription. And I felt like that was definitely worth getting and trying out. So this 2020, 2021 will be the first school year that we've used this. And so I'll be really interested in your feedback and what you might be able to use it for. So this will be something that will be up on ClassLinks. I've put in that request. And they have a whole bunch of different business subject areas. So it's why I kind of stuck it in a lot of our classes. So you'll see this show up when you teach multiple course content. You'll see this show up a couple of different times because it's got so much different stuff in here. One of the reasons I put it in here is because it has both Microsoft Office and Google Apps resources, and I thought those would be things that might be beneficial if you're going to do a compare and contrast with your students. It's got some tech readiness stuff in here and some computer apps. And so anyway, I just thought it was something that might be helpful, and I wanted to make sure that you had access to it. So if you want to test drive it, I have the link right down here. You can do that through the end of August of 2020. So if you're viewing this in 2021, sorry you missed it, but the good news is we have a subscription. So it's going to basically give you access to the same stuff the subscription will. So if you want to do that today, you know, you're welcome to do that. And then I'll have that subscription stuff up there later on in the week, or it's Friday right now, so it might be early next week. All right, I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to share with you for the curriculum training and updates for this year. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to thank you very much for your time and really look forward to working with you. And I hope you have a wonderful school year.